Okay, today's lesson is congruent polygons, and we were just saying congruent means they have the same size and the same shape. Polygons are closed figures with straight sides. So things like quadrilaterals, triangles, pentagons, hexagons, all of those things are polygons. The shape that you're most familiar with that's not a polygon would be a circle because it's not got flat sides, okay? So when we want polygons to be congruent, we need all of their sides, corresponding sides, and all of their corresponding angles to be congruent. Remember when we talked about parallel lines cut by a transversal, and we had corresponding angles? They were the ones that were in the same position. So this angle was congruent to this angle because they were both in the top left, okay? So when we're talking about things being congruent, you'll notice it says pairs of congruent corresponding parts. So we're going to look at which parts are congruent. And they've done this nice job of marking everything up for us. And can we see what's congruent? Like angle S is congruent to angle K. So we've got lots of markings on these. It starts out asking us to write a congruent statement for the triangle. So remember, this is the part you're just watching. You don't need to write this part down. And a congruent statement says triangle this is congruent to triangle that. So I'm going to start with my first triangle. And I'm going to start at one point, and I'm going to work my way around the triangle in order. That's a triangle, so it doesn't really matter. But when you get to quadrilaterals, it will. So pick a point and work your way around. So I'm going to say J, K, L. Now, when I go to the second one, the order I say these letters in becomes extremely important. What is angle J congruent to? Angle T. So angle J is congruent to angle T because they both have two marks. So since J came first, T must come first.
And then S would come.
Right. Angle K is congruent to angle S, and angle L is congruent to angle
R.
Great. Now that's not the only way I can write this. And one of the things that your book has you do is practice writing it multiple ways. So they might give it to you one way, and they say write it another way. So I'm going to put these letters in a different order. What if I started with K? And I would do K, L, J.
We have to do S. R, S. R. With S, R.
Okay, K goes with
S, R, T.
S, L goes with
R. S, R, T.
and J goes with T. Now there are probably, I think, 6 different ways I can write this triangle congruence. But that's just 2 of them, okay? Let's clean this up a little bit. All right, then it asks me to identify all pairs of congruent corresponding parts. So I need to list all of the angles that are congruent and all of the sides that are congruent. So I'm going to say angle J is congruent to angle
S or T.
which one?
T.
T. Angle K is congruent to angle
S.
and angle L is congruent to angle
R.
Great. So those are all the angle congruences. And then I need to do all the sides. So JK is congruent to,
S.
all right. We know that because they both have one marking, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then KL is congruent to
SR.
SR. I can say SR. I can also say RS. With segments, it doesn't matter which letter I put first with segments. And then the last one, JL, is congruent to
RG.
Now I want you to know, it's really nice when you have the picture and you can just look at the picture. But you can also do it just from this statement right here. I know J is congruent to T, K is congruent to S, and L is congruent to R based on that information. I also know, let's grab a highlighter real quick. I also know that JK goes with TS. And I know that KL goes with SR. And I know RT goes with LJ. If you ever have a picture and it's hard to get a grasp on what direction the triangles are turned, you can use this statement if it's given to you to help you figure out which ones go where. All right, I want you to try in your book, you're going to try number 2 in your packet. Okay, so this is number 2 on page 331 in your notes book. So it asked you to identify all the pairs of corresponding parts. So you said angle A is congruent to
Angle E.
You said angle B is congruent to angle
F.
Angle C is congruent to angle
G.
and angle D is congruent H.
I did it wrong.
H. All right. And then you needed to say all the segments. So AB was congruent to
Oh, was it going to take me so long?
EF,
Yes.
and BC is congruent to,
FG.
and CD is congruent to.
Would it count G8 if you forgot to put the line over?
No, I would not. It's fine. AD is congruent to
EH.
EH.
I did this completely.
Okay.
I did ECBD is congruent to HOF.
CBD. What? Oh, we haven't gotten to that. That's the big one.
Oh.
So once we, hold on. These are all of our congruent angles, and these are all of our congruent sides. And it told you ABCD is congruent to EFGH. And then they asked you to write another one. And so another option might be BCDA. BCDA. Okay, now what we're going to do is use the fact that two polygons are congruent to help us solve to find angles and things. So they tell us DEFG is congruent to SPRQ. So what is angle D congruent to?
S.
S. And what is angle G congruent to? R. And what is E congruent to?
P.
P. And what is F congruent to?
Q.
Okay, so do you see how that diagram, that writing really helped us figure out which ones went with which ones?
Yeah.
That was really nice. Okay, A says to find the value of X. So we have an X here, and we have an X here. We're going to choose the top one because it only has one variable. This one has two variables. So we're going to save that one until after we know what X is, and we can put X in there, and then we'll only have one variable. So QR, let's see, here's QR, is congruent to what?
FG.
FG. So FG is here. So 2x minus 4
Oh, I love this.
is equal to what?
12.
12.
Wait.
Right?
Why?
You add 4. Hold on, let's go slowly. So then 2x equals 16.
Divide by 2.
Okay. X equals 8. And it said find the value of X, so we know we're finished. Now we find the value of Y, but we know X is 8. Now this is angle Q. What is angle Q congruent to? Which is 68. So 6Y plus 8.
68.
All right. And then we can subtract 8.
60. And 6 divided by 60 is 10.
All right.
Beautiful.
So we have X and Y. I want you to try number 4 on that same page 331. Okay, so first we want to find X, and X is part of angle A. Let's grab this highlighter. And angle A is right here, and it's congruent to angle E. So that's this one right here. So we know 60 plus 8x equals 108. So 60 plus 8x equals 108. You subtracted 60, and you got 8x equals 48. You divided by 8, and you got x equals 6. So that was your x. Now you're finding y, which is over here part of angle G. And if we look here, we know angle G is congruent to angle
C.
which is
62.
62. So 8y minus 3x equals 62. But we know that x is 6. So we're going to take that and substitute it in. What is 3 times 6? 18. So 8y minus 18 equals 62. You added 18 to both sides and got 8y equals 80, and divide by 8, y equals 10. Nice job. We're going to stop this one here.